Good morning, my dear friends. Today's episode will be an answer to your questions on Instagram. Hubert Lemansky show us some shrubs for the garden that you think are a great solution, and today I will show you those shrubs. I will show you as many as 5 different shrubs that I think are perfect for the garden. Some smaller and some larger, some with really bright leaves and some with dark leaves, some that bloom and some with amazing fruit. The first suggestion is Viburnum. Recently I talked about the English Viburnum, which smells wonderful and has big flowers. So today another Viburnum, the Viburnum rigidum, which is also blooming right now. This is a shrub that already has very woody stems, these shoots, in my garden. It grows up to 3, even 4 meters, and it works great both in semi-shaded borders and in sunny borders. In full sun, look, I'm thinning it out a little bit from underneath here, and I'm planting smaller plants under it. It blooms beautifully but has no scent. However, the most important thing about it is these beautiful evergreen, stiff, leathery leaves. In winter they stay on the shrub. The Viburnum replaces some of them, so at some point it looks a bit sparser, but then right after blooming it starts to grow again. New shoots will start to grow. You can already see some light green ones here, and finally the fruits will appear. Red fruits that will look fantastic peeking out among the greenery of these beautiful dark green leaves. It's really worth having it in your garden, mainly because it's evergreen. Of course, as I mentioned, some of the leaves do fall off, but you really end up with a green ball in the garden and you can freely shape it. When it comes to watering, it's not very demanding, just regular watering, not too dry, not too wet. It does well in many places. The next shrub is one I've already talked about because it's an amazing shrub. Listen, Sambucus nigra is known by many as a shrub with green leaves, but here I have Sambucus nigra in this generally black variety. And look, it has beautiful burgundy brown leaves, almost turning black. I'm shaping it a bit like a bonsai, trimming a lot of the branches that grow from the bottom, and just like with that Viburnum, I'm creating space underneath so I can plant, for example, the Munstead wood rose here, which has a very similar color. This elderberry will also do well in a semi-shaded spot, but just like in my case, it also works great in a sunny border. Its great advantage is that it blooms in a pale pink color, and on those dark leaves the flowers really look very interesting. It doesn't bloom for very long, but the flower clusters are really large and make a great accent in any garden. If you plant it somewhere in the back, that dark color will bring out every color that's in front of it. The first 2 suggestions were shrubs that really grow up to 4 meters tall. However, this shrub, in addition to being smaller, because it grows up to a maximum of 1.5 meters, is very compact and dense, and it also blooms fantastically. It blooms right at the beginning of May. This is Deutzia, also known as Jelistek. It's a plant that isn't very popular in Poland, and that's a shame because it's really suitable for many interesting arrangements. It will serve its purpose in the central part of the flower bed because it will bloom beautifully in early spring. Look at all the flowers appearing here. It's not in full bloom yet, but when it does, it will be a white cream ball. And later it has leaves which form a kind of an interesting shape and can serve as a background for those earlier plants that will be planted at the front of the flower bed. For example, here I have daylilies planted, and there are also coral bells even closer. And it's a great background for creating a plant like that, a filipendula really. Listen, it grows, as I said, up to 1.5 meters. It likes pruning, but because it blooms in early spring, we do the pruning after it flowers. It likes the sun, generally in partial shade. It grows weaker. And here, when my metasequoia has already grown, it grows a bit weaker, but I don't want to replant it here anymore, so I'm leaving it. I will be cutting these branches from the metasequoia here, but actually in such a sunny spot it works really well. It's resistant to lack of water, so you don't really have to water it much. It's worth introducing it. Let me know, by the way, if you have Deutzia gelistic in your gardens. There's a white one and a slightly pink one, a variety with pinkish flowers. So you might have a different kind. Of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell and leave your comments, because that's very important so that we can share our knowledge together in this community. So write in the comments if you have Deutzia in your garden. Cotinus Coggygria, royal purple variety. This is another shrub I wanted to tell you about, a shrub that is beautiful because of its leaves, beautiful for its inflorescences and still lovely after they fade. So it's 3 in 1, a great plant for planting as a solitaire or as a group of plants. Beautiful leaf colors. These leaves later increase in volume. They become more rounded purple green. The older they get, the more purple they become. Soon they will start producing inflorescences like little mists, completely misty burgundy yellow ones, tiny little flowers, very tiny, microscopic, but arranged in such large forms. And then when these inflorescences wither, the wigs will appear. That is such fluffy forms. In this case they are in a beige green color at the very beginning, and the whole shrub is then covered with these wigs. It really works great, but when they bloom, they attract a lot of pollinators. So it's great to use it in such mixed plantings. Additionally, there are also green varieties, and there are varieties with such bright leaves. But I wouldn't want to talk to you about those bright leaves in the case of Cotinus, because in a moment I'll show you another plant which actually has such yellow-green leaves. And it also works very well in hedges when it comes to Cotinus Coggygria. This is a plant that can actually withstand a whole lot. It's very often planted in urban plantings, so smog, pollution and salinity, none of that scares it. Additionally, it doesn't really need any special care. We prune it after it blooms. After those blooms appear and start to fall off, that's when we prune it. Because if we prune it in early spring, it might not bloom, at least not as abundantly. It will bloom, but less so. As I said, it doesn't need much water. Moderately, just like any other plant. However, it also grows in any conditions. Of course, it will do better in a semi-sunny or sunny spot. It will grow worse in full shade, but it will still manage. And is it worth it? It's worth cutting out its older branches, refresh it so it gets denser, because look how you prune it. Then these young shoots appear, and that's when it becomes denser. A shrub that works perfectly for hedges. It works even better as a single form. And it works best as a background for other plants. Physocarpus opulifolius. You can either like it or not, but it definitely works in every garden. It works great in those 3 aspects. Here I have the classic variety with lime green leaves, and this is my last 5th suggestion. As for a shrub for the garden, the Physocarpus opulifolius grows very well. It's great for pruning, and it really works very well in the garden. Besides that, we have a variety with leaves like these. Some varieties like Diabolo have dark leaves, others have reddish leaves and are larger, and also with even greener ones. This variety at the very beginning is very lime yellow green. Later the leaves turn a bit darker. Here's a form that's been allowed to grow upward. Of course, as usual, I'll be cutting out the lower part of the plant so I can plant others underneath it. But you can let it grow upwards. It spreads beautifully. It also sometimes blooms, generally speaking. But some people don't like those flowers because later fruit clusters appear which are brown, and they show up very quickly and they make the leaves look a bit autumn-like. But Physocarpus opulifolius will also work well as a shrub. You can also use it to create topiaries, meaning trimmed shapes. And in a moment I'll show you what such a trimmed shape looks like. This Physocarpus opulifolius in this light variety is planted in the most shaded spot in my garden, and it's regularly pruned because I want to have exactly this rounded shape. So actually I prune it 3 or even 4 times a year. The first pruning will probably be in mid-May to reduce what sticks out above the whole shape and to make it happen so that these new shoots grow even more. They will sprout new ones from the base because the growth tips on each shoot will be cut off and it will become denser. It creates a very, very compact form. I hope you like these 5 plants. Let me know which of these plants you have in your garden. Do you have Physocarpus opulifolius? And in what form, in which variety? Is it dark or light, or maybe some new ones actually rusty colored? Let me know if you know elderberry in the form that I have. And do you like viburnums? Because there are really many varieties of viburnum. I'm even considering making an episode just about viburnums. But maybe we should wait until they all bloom, and then I'll tell you more about viburnums. Let me know if you want an episode about viburnums, and I invite you to watch the next video coming soon.